regular meeting of the Rushford Peterson School Board on Monday, August 19th, 2019, at 5:31 in the Rushford Peterson School Board. I'd like to begin by saying to Scott that we have listened to our school board in the past few years.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And thank you for being here. Can we have a roll call, please?
Chris Grennan,
Here.
Valerie Howe,
Here.
Joyce Iverson,
Here.
John Linder, Jeff Michael,
Yep.
Bonnie Princeton, here, Kathy Wade.
Here. And together, let us recite the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yep. Yeah, I think they're on. Sorry.
Great.
I can try to speak on
Just saying, she's more soft spoken than our other chair.
Let's make sure that they.
I forgot to.
Yep.
It's all right.
Just flip the switch up there.
Do you want to practice with a hammer, Joyce?
We have some additions to the agenda before you. Item E, the August board bills in the amount of $179,842.68, and 3 additional personnel items that would be numbered 8, 9, and 10. Hire of Shelby Miller, Tanya Nelson, and Tracy Princeton. Is there a motion to accept those additions to the agenda?
I'll make that motion. Wait.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any public comments, Peter? None. Our consent agenda includes the July 15th, 2019 regular monthly meeting minutes, donations in the amount of $1,969.36, July hand payables, wares, and payroll liabilities in the amount of $86,043.66, July payroll in the amount of $263,774.11, August board bills for $179,842.68. Personnel items, resignation of Dale Boga, head track coach, resignation of Tracy Meldal, food service assistant, resignation of Deanne Westby, food service assistant, hire of Sarah Guile, district office administrative assistant, transportation coordinator, hire of Corey Ronenberg, long-term sub for elementary and middle school Fayette, hire of Lorelei Bunky, assistant junior class advisor, hire of Hannah Poppy, JV volleyball coach, hire of Shelby Miller, long-term sub for 4th grade, hire of Tanya Nelson, kindergarten teacher, and hire of Tracy Knudsen, assistant volleyball coach. Is there any discussion on any of these items? If not, we'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
That's a nice motion.
Wait a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we go on to new business. 7A, approve the date and time for the Truth and Taxation meeting, Monday, December 16th, 2019, at 6:15 p.m. in the Rushford Peterson School Forum Room.
All nice motion.
Second.
Brennan.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is carried. Item number B, approve the contracted PSEO memorandum of agreement with Minnesota State College Southeast.
Pretty standard, Jake, from year to year.
Yep.
So this is just like they would have approved last year.
Yep.
Probably for the next two items.
Both of the next two items, Jeff, that's just agreeing that, for the first one is our contract with the SEO, that's our online classes that our kids take through Minnesota State Southeast, and the biggest thing with that one is the fact that it has some numbers in there. We pay $139 per credit there. So what happens is we claim the student as a 1.0, we get the whole funding, and then we pay for their college classes at a reduced rate versus kids going to PSEO and the funding following them and us getting none. That's the first one. The second one is the concurrent enrollment, which we've talked about previously here, where that is our teachers are teaching a class and we're paying the dollar amount, I can't remember the exact dollar amount that's in there. We pay that as a flat fee for the class. So if we have 20 kids in there, we pay that for all of them, and then they get both high school and college credit at the same time if that's taught by our faculty.
Those are all dictated by the legislature, right? I mean, it's not like we make our own decisions about.
No, yeah, but it used to be, Minnesota State, yeah, has been good for us with the concurrent. They've had to raise it the last few years because they were kind of low, but the legislature said this is what it has to be. In the contracted PSEO, we kind of finagled that with them a little bit, where that's what they would get from the state legislature if they went full-time PSEO, which isn't the full funding for a student. So that's a win-win for both of us, is the fact that we can claim as a 1.0 student, they get the same amount, and then that extra that would have went to nothing, we can still pocket a little bit for us in their year.
I'm not sure this is a right time to ask this, but what is the difference then with the articulate courses? Do you know what I mean?
Yep, so concurrent enrollment is taught by, and the state went through a little bit a while ago where they have to have a master's degree in the field or 18 college credits in that area, and that's concurrent, and that's where they'll get a transcript from Minnesota State Southeast for like college algebra. That when they take it to, when they graduate, if they go to Winona State, U of M, they bring that transcript and it looks just like they got it at college. Articulated, they more or less get a certificate, and if they go to Minnesota State Southeast, they'll say, yep, it's good, we'll take it there. But like Intro to Welding is one that we have. If they go to Riverland College, Riverland might say, it's not our welding, so you can't do it.
Okay.
So that's the biggest
So it's
difference
just
between the two.
That's the articulate. That's
Yep.
what that means. Okay. So we don't have to have different instructors then that do the articulate.
No, that's just an agreement we have, and we have some instructors here that'll do it, and the more we can get, the better. And that the articulated are more of the hands-on CTE type classes.
Gotcha.
Our kids get high school credit either way.
Yep. For all, yeah, everything we're talking about here, we get high school credit and college credit.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve.
item B.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Item number C, motion.
I'll make the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. All right, item number D is to approve the list of fundraisers for the 2019-2020 school year.
I think it's great that the board approves the fundraisers. And it's not necessarily guaranteed that this is 100% accurate. I know Laura spent some time trying to contact people, so it's basically last year repeated. But the biggest thing you do there is you spread it out over the years so that our businesses and our parents don't get burdened down at the same time, kind of provide a little oversight on it. We didn't do that at my former school. I just think that's great that the board looks at that, and hopefully we can hold them as close as possible to that. So kudos to you, I think that's great. Is that required in this list? We just already done.
You know, we have always done that.
I think it's great.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Are you ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the fundraisers as listed.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, item number D, to review changes and adopt policy number 509 regarding enrollment of non-resident students.
kind of asking the board to consider doing this a little differently than what you're accustomed to. And I think traditionally, Rutherford Peterson does large-scale work on the policies and does first readings, second readings, 2 months goes by. The enrollment season is upon us. We're getting calls daily with kids considering open enrollment, primarily from the north, but open enrollment considerations, and we also have class sizes that are kind of bursting at that critical point. And I know we talked about this a lot in our sit-down meetings in a lot of respects around the topic of open enrollment, but specifically, it's to that point where if you allow everybody in, you suddenly have to hire a new teacher at the last minute. They're hard to find, it's not necessarily cost efficient for the district, so we need to set numbers. And the policy was written originally, and it's all in black there if you look at it, where it made it sound like we had a limit, but we never specifically as a school district set our numbers. And so what I'm asking you to do tonight, and there was really two options on this. You could have said it was an emergency, then we would have had to say, why is that an emergency? And then what's our plan to do a full revision or a rework of the policy? Or we can just simply do a revision. And so my mindset is that we won't add everything that we'd like to tonight, but we'll add the numbers. And that's going to be in red text if you're looking at the suggested policy. What you'll see there in blue is additional wording that we could add to it. It would be nice, but I want to, especially since this board hasn't done a lot of just one read revisions, don't want to overdo it in the first shot. So it's really about your comfort level. If we look at the red text, decide that's revision, then bring the blue back for another full reading, we can do that as soon as next month. I do think it's critical that you consider doing the red for tonight. So any initial impressions or thoughts on that, on how you'd like to proceed? Joyce had some good notes for me earlier when we took a look at it. Typo in one instance, but
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson, about, so you said you've, I take it you've heard from a lot of people about open enrollment, that it's an issue they wanted you to look at more closely here. And,
Yeah.
And so, I mean, overall, just as I'm looking at it, it looks like just a way to kind of put some restrictions there, or, have a limit, which I do agree that I'm not sure in the past we had any limits, and I think we also had set a deadline for it. You had to apply by a certain date, and I know that was often waived. And so, am I reading this correctly, in that this is just an effort to try to put some hands on it?
to give you the quick answer, I think there was a general consensus that more attention should be given to open enrollment. This is one way to start that process. Just tonight, I'm talking about the number side of it. I think transportation is something that as a school district, you're really going to have to decide. And, that might be as simple as, are we going to leave the district boundaries or make people come to our boundaries? Some schools do the back route. Are we going to limit it to, once we're outside of district, we only pick up at a set location that are a little more geographically doable, I guess, or wise. But that's a little more than I want us to tackle tonight. I think that's something that your committee should look at first, get input from the principals, get an input from the transportation service, superintendent, talk about, and then bring back for a first and second reading. So, long answer to your question is yes, this is the first step. What was the other one you mentioned? Transportation, numbers. I think I have it written down in what we would consider in the future. Section size limits, transportation guidelines, timelines, you mentioned that, Bonnie. That's something we'll want to take a look at and then hold to. And how to handle siblings of students already open enrollment in our district. It's kind of hard if you have a brother in the 5th grade and the kindergartner wants to open enroll and say no. It's also hard when you have 4 siblings that all want to join the district at the same time, and you have a restriction at one of the grade levels, and the other 3 are able to come in. I think those are discussions we need to have. It's probably just a little bit more than we will spend time doing tonight. That we'll send it to the committee. I talked with our principals, and Jake's here. He understands this because of his 7th grade class. I think specifically, we are busting at that upper level right there. So if the board can pass this revision tonight, it gives Holly, when the phone calls come through, a legitimate, honest answer to give the parents, and that's what we're looking for. So the next question is red or blue. If you get a chance to look at that, that link should work, but to the policy, does it work? Good. Do you remember, Joyce, what the wording was in the red that we wanted to switch?
Well, it was clarifying.
Oh. Okay, thanks. Isn't that first paragraph confusing? To the extent space remains available after accepting the number of students required to be open enrolled and set forth in paragraph 2A, I'm reading, I gotta go higher. The school districts shall accept for open enrollment a minimum, that's the key word, of the lesser of 1% of the total enrollment at each grade level in the school district, or the number of school district resident students at each grade level enrolled in non-resident school district. Clear as mud as you look through that? Basically, the state is, it's hard to read and understand that, and I think Laura helped me understand it the first time. What the state's trying to do is they're trying to set the minimum. They're saying you will have to accept open enrollments, and here's the minimum you can. So I didn't put a lot of thought in reading through that because it's something we need to have as part of our policy. So then it goes on, and this is where I think our question came up. In the very last sentence, open enrollment until such times as the following, where is it at?
It's this last one, it says,
Yeah, she's helping me get there.
yeah,
Oh, and that first one I read,
right.
why doesn't it just say in a different school district instead of a non-resident school district? So if you guys want to change that, we surely can. I guess it's, since nobody's probably going to understand it anyway, what does it matter? No, I'm just kidding. We could put different school, do you see where she's saying grade level enrolled in a non-resident school district? Could we just put different school district? I think that's fine.
So
And then, go ahead.
this red lettering, this didn't come from the state or suggested, and we just put in our numbers, it's actually all, it's our wording?
It's our wording borrowed from others.
Oh.
So it wasn't necessarily in the state, but there's other school districts we looked at. And so that was their wording, but that first paragraph, number 1, is from the state's, what you're supposed to have in there if you start to set limits. The numbers are entirely ours. I'll get to you, sorry. And we wanted it to be in sections instead of just a total number for the class. And so when section enrollment reaches or exceeds 24 resident and non-resident students, kindergarten through first grade, that's our wording entirely. Most of them with us at 48, or just depends on how many sections they typically have. This seems to me to make more sense. So your question?
Okay, I'd just like to suggest a little bit more clarification for that
Sure.
last line. So, school district resident students at each grade level enrolled as a non-resident in another or in a different school district.
I don't know if that paragraph came from the state, and it's
Yeah.
reviewed by lawyers and whatnot. I'd like to keep that first paragraph the same as it came directly from the state, because we're clarifying what we want in paragraph 2, which is the important part of it, setting the limits. To me, paragraph 1 just seems like your general safety that we're required to have.
So what about that makes you think it came from lawyers?
Because that's what you're discussing.
I'm sorry.
What's our word, clunky? It's a little clunky.
They do make mistakes.
They do, yes, they do.
But you're right, just in case, you know, if it's a state's wording, maybe we should just leave it as is. Because in the back of my mind, the other question I have is, okay, so then it says all going to be okay with the state, because I know, you know, the open enrollment, the statute. So if we want to look like we're really following the state, I guess I agree with Chris, we might want to just leave that as is.
Truly, if we go with the red section, we are just tweaking our existing policy by actually putting in the numbers in which we stated section limits. So it's a revision, and it gives it more clarity. It shouldn't be confusing to our public or It isn't like we're adding a whole nother thought or a whole nother policy to an existing policy, just tweaking it by adding the numbers. The blue, you know, if you want to look at that tonight, saying it will give resident students priority is included in it. Then it goes on, basically gives you the pecking order of who should get in if we're getting close to the number. Enrolling siblings of currently enrolled students, students whose applications are related to an approved integration plan, which we don't have to worry about here, but that's state wording again.
Does
Children of district staff.
that date then becomes critical, because if you have a student who decides now and has a sibling, but yet somebody else is already previously enrolled, and then they lose their priority sitting if they don't do it by a certain date, right? Don't we have to-
Yeah.
Yeah, the dates have to be,
I think that's a really good point.
yeah.
To me, it looks like it makes sense. I don't know, if we want to discuss it more, but I'd be willing to make a motion to, I don't know, I guess I don't see anything wrong with the red or the blue, it's just making the
I
policy.
feel like
work.
we did a good job of clarifying it, like you said, it's gonna.
I 100% agree with that, but I didn't want us to bite off more of the apple than we were comfortable with tonight. So I'm comfortable with red and blue if the board sees it that way. That doesn't give the policy committee to be passed, though. It's just that I'm more work to do with dates.
Okay, Princeton made the motion to approve both red and blue, is that correct? Is there a second?
I would second that.
All in favor?
Right.
Opposed? It's carried. Okay, item F is to review and approve the handbooks for the 2019-2020 school year.
Mr. Tim is here, Mrs. Shepherd is not. They were helping her mother-in-law move into a retirement home today, so she's not here, but I bet you Jay can answer some of the questions. One thing I do want to ask the board to consider, and I'll talk to our principals about this, in my former district, and I liked this, and I thought it was best for our board members. Joyce read the handbooks, which was quite an undertaking. And I told her that was tremendous as we were talking tonight, because that's a lot of reading. And so what we used to do is the only thing we bring to the board were the changes in the handbook. Instead of 26 pages, or how many pages are they, Jake?
Oh,
About 30? Instead of 30 pages to read and try to remember, was that the same as last year? We would just bring the changes. And it was everything from the dates that had to be changed on some of the items, but especially when there was an actual policy change. Like this year, Jake did a lot of work this summer with the teachers on discipline plan. And that, of course, is part of the handbook. And in fact, that's why we're doing it in August instead of July. And so he could focus his information to you just on that section. Or if they did something with detentions or anything along those lines, it would be all that he would bring to you. So something to look forward to next summer is we'll possibly go that route. Does that make sense to you too?
Yep,
Dave?
and we've historically done that. And historically, what I do is I send the whole handbook and then just the highlights.
Okay.
And sometimes staff, board members like Joyce like to read the whole handbook. And some just like the highlights, and sometimes you read a highlight and you want to see back and forth. But generally, that's what Angela and I have done is here's the
Okay.
highlights, here's exactly what we changed to look at and approve. Here's the whole handbook in case you want to look at it for reference.
Okay, well, since you're here, we can put you on the spot. Would you want to talk about the discipline changes a little bit, or?
Yep, we had a group of, for the middle school, high school, and we had a group of probably almost 10, 12 staff members, myself. We met in May, June, and July. So we met 3 different times, went through, reviewed other policies from other schools, and kind of came up with that discipline matrix that you guys see there. That was kind of the biggest undertaking of it. Along with that, we had detentions, and for the most part, those are the detentions we had. We kind of clarified some of it. Some of the bigger clarifications are, before we used to give students, with choice before school, after school, sometimes lunch, tried to work around their schedules as well. And the staff said, no, but detention's a detention, and we're gonna go Tuesday and Thursday after school. And then the one thing we agreed on was it supersedes all other school activities, work responsibilities, and other after-school activities. So if it's an athletic and you've got practice, we're gonna let coach know that you got detention and you'll be there a little late. So kind of putting a little teeth to it and then working through again. A lot of the stuff we already did in the detention, and just kind of clarified it again and kind of put some steps to it, kind of like we talked about with the open enrollment. In terms of the ISS, as we've moved to this building, that's kind of been I don't know what the exact word you want to use, one of those things of, we've had that little spot for them. And in the old building, we had a little room and we talked, and as part of the design committee, it was, well, we don't need a room, there's not enough space. The architects, we kind of went back and forth on it, and it's just a tough spot to put kids there, to observe them, to watch them. It really hasn't been a big issue. And then this year with the vaping stuff that started to come through, we had a lot more kids in ISS, and it just became abundantly clear that we got to find something different for them. So we have, we've moved one of our paraprofessionals is kind of an in-school suspension supervisor. So she's got other responsibilities, duties during the day. If all of a sudden a kid gets an in-school suspension, she's going to supervise in our dance studio. We're going to set it up with tables and chairs. And then we've got those rules for exactly to follow through there. So we've got the students that have a little more meat to, they can't just sit there and listen, have to have someone watching, with someone watching them. And then we also put some of that restorative justice on there a little bit too, where they're, as you see, as you looked at it, they have to meet with myself or Mrs. Smith or Mrs. Helgemo, and they have to write a note as to why they're in there. So it's not just you're bad, get out of here for the day, 2 days, 3 days. You go over there and do that, but on top of that, we're going to talk through with you as to why you're in here and what can we do differently next time to hopefully not be in here again. Study halls, again, teachers the teachers put that together throughout the year last year. We were just having some teachers had different expectations in study halls. Some would let kids go, some would let them sit on the phones, some would make them do work, and it was all over the place. So we had our teachers get together and say, this is what study hall is going to look like. And then the cell phones there at the bottom, we purchased those calculator holders. So in my desk and trying to work with students big time on that it's not. And there's a letter all set once these get approved tonight. I've got an email typed up to go out to parents with these updates as well, kind of in an easier read format for them. And it talks about with the cell phones that the whole goal of the cell phone holders is to increase the learning. And you look at enough research that as we're sitting here now, if my cell phone buzzes in my pocket, I'm not going to reach it and grab it, but in my head I'm going, who texted me, what do they want, I got to look at it, and that goes through all of our heads. And for students now, their phone's buzzing with something, and if that's going through their head, they can't pay attention. And there's something to be said for just that proximity. It's not right by them. So we're going to put them up when they walk in, and we experimented with it during the summer, and it worked really well. They walk in, they put it in the holder, their number, they go to class, at the end of class they pick it up. And our high school staff is going to experiment with attendance, taking attendance that way. And then if a student comes in and says, my cell phone's in my pocket, or my cell phone's in my locker, they're not going to say, well, it's in your pocket, it has to go in there. They're just going to say, okay, grab a note card, you put a note card in your spot so we can see who's in class. And then if a student takes out their cell phone, then it goes in that discipline matrix of a consequence for them. But if a kid sits there with a cell phone in their pocket all hour and it doesn't go off, we're not going to be the cell phone police of like searching and stuff like that for them. So that's kind of the biggies of there. If you got a chance to look at it, if there's any questions you guys have on some of the stuff on the matrix or detentions or ISS, very happy to answer them.
I have 2 questions.
Yep.
One is for vandalism, or do they have to work it off, or is there any, before in the past they had to work some stuff off, is that part of this matrix?
And it can be, but as we had our one incident last year that kind of led to this conversation, we kind of used the community service, and that was, from my perspective, the board didn't seem to approve that, and staff members really weren't keen on them working it off.
Okay.
I'm more than happy, what I'd love to do for vandalism is just put maybe restitution in there, so they still get the consequence of the 1 day of ISS, the out-of-school suspension, and then they have restitution to the either, if you broke a chair and the chair's worth $100, you either come in and give us $100, or you work off. And I'd be very happy to put that in there.
Okay. My second question is especially directed at special ed. I see in detention and in school suspension that they can't move. If they have it in the IEP, like they need 5 breaks during the day, they give 5 breaks instead of the 2 bathroom.
Yep, we'd always go with that. Yep, and the
You
no
always
moving,
will follow the IEP.
yes, always follow the IEP.
Okay,
Yep, and the detention, the no moving around is more for the kid that, well, I'm in there for 45 minutes and I start here, and then after I work for a while, I'm gonna go talk over with Bonnie for a little bit, and then no, I'm gonna go over work by you for a little bit, and stuff like that. It's just, but yeah, if a special ed student's in there and they need breaks, yes, definitely would follow that. So my question back is, as you guys as a board, would you be up for me with the vandalism one, putting on top of that, putting restitution in there as well?
Yes.
How about like restitution as appropriate, I mean, because of what they did. You know, it might be really easy to say, okay, you have to fix that.
and it might require police referral, you know, or
Right.
whatever.
Yep. And yeah, and what we tried to
Make
say
sure
in
you
this
give
meeting.
yourself that option, you know,
Yeah, you get
police
the option.
referral and restitution if as
And
appropriate.
in here too, what we tried to say is, the list is not meant to be exhaustive in nature, there may be infractions that are not defined, but disciplinary action is taken. So we tried to make, and that was the toughest part when we went through this matrix, was how big do you make it and how little do you make it? So it's kind of one of those of, something could easily happen that doesn't fall in here, and a kid can't say, well, that's nowhere on there, so I don't get a punishment. They still get a punishment, it's kind of a guide going forward.
Well, kudos to you guys, this is,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think you left it broad enough where you can fit things into here, but yet you've been more specific, you know, than probably in the past. I have just a couple of quick questions. Are you going to need someone to staff detention?
Yep, and what we've done with that in the past is we've had teachers who volunteer and go through, and we've kind of worked with teachers, and they get comp time for extra time. So we're just gonna put it out for staff members and ask, and I'll help, I've done detentions too, but it's 2 days a week for, I think, about 45 minutes, so the staff members will just kind of volunteer, but get comp time for it.
And is that in a classroom?
Yes. Yep, so it'd be in their classroom.
Okay, and then my other question, and I applaud you too, because I think, you know, something like this, all you can do is try to put something like this together, and I'm sure it was a lot of work, and then just see how it goes, and expect that, you know, kids will still find every way to work
Oh.
around it. But I'm just wondering, I don't know the answer to this, but would there be any benefit, since it represents some kind of big changes, you know, the cell phone stuff, would there be any benefit to calling it a pilot, saying that we're trying a new discipline program this year? I mean, I'm thinking like to parents as the
Are you saying specifically the cell phones or the whole thing?
No, maybe I don't know. It seems like the whole thing is different just in that it's so much more specific and,
Yeah, and I think that's where, and that's the biggest reason of how you guys see it too, because the ability of, all these consequences were, you know, progressive in nature before, and we kind of did different, where this kind of gives the clarify of it.
yeah.
And in terms of the detentions and the ISS, a lot of those were the rules that we had, but again, wasn't specifically written down, and at least now, when I send it out to parents tomorrow and to students, they'll kind of see that, okay, these are the rules we got to follow. And the cell phone thing, we've always kind of had said you can't have cell phones in class, the teachers can have them in, it's not a distraction, and it clarifies it. And kind of the cool thing about the cell phone, and some people are going to say we copied it, is Plainview, Elgin, Millview, the principal sent out a letter, and it was on Facebook on last Friday, saying they're doing this exact same thing. And the funny thing is, when I saw it, I smiled going, we've had this in works for all summer, we're waiting until we get it approved, so now we'll send it out. But at least it verifies that there's other schools that are doing the same thing. And I'm gonna work really hard that first day when I meet with students, especially on the cell phones, that it's not a punishment. This isn't you were naughty, so we're taking them away. This is to help you learn. And the same with the in-school suspension, detention, all that stuff. It's not you guys have been so bad that we're gonna hammer you down. It's just, if you do these things, here's what they are. And in all of them, the goal, like you see with the in-school suspension and detention, is talking through them. I mean, each time when they come talk with me, part of the expectation is, here's your consequence, and on top of that, why did you do it? What can we do differently next time? Let's try. So we're trying to do that both do it.
To Bonnie's question about calling it a pilot or not, maybe a suggestion would be to put in there when it's going to be reviewed.
Yeah.
Because whether they use the word pilot or not, I think parents or students, and then it's kind of a reminder for us that if we're going to review it at Christmas and at the end of the year, after the second trimester and at the end of the year, something like that, to put that in print. What do you think about that, Mr. Tim? Think that would be something you could add? It just shows the parents that we're not just going to put it in place and leave it there forever. We're going to,
Yeah,
and we might,
and I don't know if I want to put that in the handbook per se, but maybe when I send out the email tomorrow, I'll make a little caveat at the bottom that this discipline information will be reviewed, and I'll find a nice way to word it, mid-year or at the end of the year, something like that. I'll kind of put that in there. I just don't want to really put that in the handbook.
I would think you really want staff input too, to look at it after it's been in place.
Oh, yeah.
Because here's the thing, I'm always thinking down the road, like, okay, so let's say you put this in place this year, and it does represent kind of some changes, and maybe parts of it don't work out well. So a year from now, then you come back with, okay, now we have another new discipline policy, and then you kind of look like, what are they just like taking stabs at it in
Yeah.
a year? But if you actually say, we're going to review this, give staff and parents a chance to give input and review it at some time, then it looks like, okay, we've got an ongoing developing policy.
That makes sense.
and then probably more apt to read the full email than the full policy. I think putting that in your email makes a lot of sense. Just like the superintendent didn't read that was revisions at the bottom. I thought it was 3 different grade levels, so sometimes people don't read everything.
And by the way, the Plainview policy, what I saw on Facebook, all the parents responding to it were like, yes,
Yeah.
good job, support you for that. This made me smile.
So that was the funny part when we saw, we were like, oh, we're doing the same thing. So, and they played with it this summer, and the kids had a little pushback right away, but then after that, they kind of got the hang of it. And like I said, the nice thing is it's going to be real fun the first couple weeks explaining this to these kids, because you know how kids think. As soon as they see this new discipline matrix, which they haven't had before in cell phone, they're just gonna, oh, we're in prison now and you're locking us down, not letting us have any freedom, where it's just kind of like, no, keep doing what you're doing. It's just if you get in trouble, this helps everybody know. And we had a lot of students students being students would say, well, he got a different discipline policy, or he got a different discipline than I did, or she got something than me. Mr. Tim likes them more, that teacher likes them more than they, and this kind of helped. And this was feedback from students too, as we went, because last year at the end of the year, I actually went up and sat with 2 or 3 different classes and just got feedback from students of what's going well, what's not going well. So we didn't have them on the discipline committee per se, and part of that was to protect them, because if all of a sudden they found out which kid was on there, we really didn't want them to be singled out. So we just got lots of feedback, and then the staff. But yeah, we've got some students, it's going to be interesting, but it's going to be fun too.
I would like to see a police referral on the assault, battery of staff and drug distribution as well.
Just interesting.
Just to add it to assault and battery of staff. What's the second one?
And also on weapons and bombs. And the sexual offense, is that basically the same thing as assault?
Sexual offense, that could be assault, that could be we've had students, in the past, students have had intimate relations in the building or something like that, that would be a sexual offense in nature. And I was again trying to make it vague. So you guys said for which ones?
Assault and battery of staff.
Assault and battery of staff.
Drug
Okay.
distribution.
And then weapons and bombs.
Okay. Drug, alcohol, and distribution, yeah. I'm just trying to make notes, guys. And then, Jeff, which one did you say?
Weapons and bombs.
Weapons and bombs. Okay, the bottom. Yep, okay.
And then the sexual offense and the stealing, it says potential police referral. Do you just have police referral on that, or?
And the thought with that is, when we talked through it, was if a kid goes and takes a piece of candy, are we going to refer them to the police, or are we just going to talk to them versus if they go and steal $200 from somebody?
Right.
So that's where the potential was, and the sexual offense, the same thing too. If we have 2 16-year-olds that go in the bathroom and do, I'm not gonna refer them to the police, but if we have an 18-year-old and a 15-year-old, then we might. So I just wanted to, again, that gray, leave us a little gray area if we could.
Okay.
There's a couple of dates, Mr. Tim, on the military recruitment list that goes out where parents can sign not be on there. They just have the wrong dates on it from a couple of years back.
Oh, I just haven't updated, okay, I'll make sure I update those.
In the text paragraph and in the form.
Okay.
There's some for the elementary that
Oh, yeah.
are careful eye caught, so I'll forward those on to Angela also. Mr. Tim, that's well done, and your description tonight, appreciate that.
Thank you.
So you want us to formally approve of the, I'll make a motion to approve it with the changes suggested by board members.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Okay, are we ready for the superintendent's report?
Sure, that sounds great. Let's click on that. When we were looking at the consent agenda, we had the hires. One was for a kindergarten teacher, and we had kind of set the number, not kind of, the number was set at 48, so if it got to 49, we would split the third section. So we're at 50 right now, which is great. So we're going to have 3 sections of kindergartners, so that's the hiring of 1 teacher that you approved earlier in the meeting. But if you remember, we also had an elementary teacher who took a different job and left. But we're not hiring back for that position. It'll require some jockeying around of our existing staff and maybe getting some additional hours from some of our current staff, but it will save the district money in the long run. So basically, as I wrote in that paragraph, our planned technology integration assistant, it just won't happen in the way it was originally planned. And I don't know how much board involvement was in that last year. I wasn't here, but again, Jake had worked on that, and Angela, and saved us a little money, but we're still going to get the elective classes covered as well. Is that well said, do you think?
Yep, and since, you know, you and I haven't had a chance to talk today, couldn't get our staff to fill in all the sections, so we're actually going to hire a .55
So
position.
we lost the 1 full-time teacher and we're replacing it with a
.55.
Okay.
Which I think in the long run, with having the extra kindergarten section, it helped to balance us a little bit.
Yep. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. The second thing is the Steinway Model A piano. I'm not a piano guy. I figured the older the piano was, the more it was worth. Doesn't quite work that way, but it's about half of what a new one sells for. And a new piano of that vintage, this was a 1915 piano. You know, it depends on a few factors, but it might be $80,000 to $85,000. So looking at that, you might think that in the condition it's in, it might be anywhere from a $30,000 to $45,000. That's a computer, didn't I? Piano. If you click on that link, I think it gives you pictures.
But there is no history.
Oh, the history one doesn't work?
Or at least I can tell. I got pictures both times.
So the pictures are so good, I sent them twice. What the history is basically a letter from the Steinway Company. And it was written a few years back, and I'll send it to you as an email, and I apologize for that. That's truly superintendent error. But it just says that they check the serial number. Of course, they can't see the piano. They don't know the condition. So they just basically say that, yes, this is a 1915 Model A Steinway piano. And thank you for sending us this question, because now we can update our records. That's almost the entirety of the history letter. But I'll send that to you. It verifies through the serial number that it is a Steinway. And you know, that's type of piano people will want to drive from the area to get a chance to play, if they know how to play. And I think it's a great gesture on that family. It's in the state of New York. It's going to end up being just under $2,000 to ship it here, and the company is actually going to store it in a climate-controlled area, the moving company, until they actually have a truck coming this way, which will save us about half the cost. So it'll arrive probably late September. So if you're a piano player and you want to get a chance, and we don't have the cost of tuning it once it gets here, of course that will be part of the overall cost. We have some funds in the fine arts area that'll help pay for that, to get it shipped to our school. But what a great thing for that price. So just to keep you informed about that, we'll probably have, do any of you play the piano? So Bonnie will put on a board performance.
We play Meatloaf. right?
Yes. We rock.
That's an old joke.
I don't know how to react to that. It's an
It's an
old
old
joke,
joke,
okay.
yeah.
But if you have a good meatball recipe,
Yeah.
I have them.
Or if you have a CD of Meatloaf, the singer, yeah.
yeah, we prefer that actually.
Well, you're right in my wheelhouse. I was in middle school when Meatloaf was originally on my record shelf. I just think that's outstanding. So if you see Loopy, tell him thanks. You know, it's his daughter who owned it, and I think that's so nice of them to think about us. Also through our conversations, boy did I enjoy those, talking with all of you, but one of the things I brought up was the idea of having special board meetings. And I tried to make it sound like a trade-off, and then I get to the meeting tonight and I'm talking for such an extended amount of time. But the idea would be to try to streamline our board meetings. You know, maybe we save 4 to 6 hours over the course of a whole year if we're able to save 30 minutes from the board meeting, but then steal that back from you and invite you back in on another night. And then as a board, there wouldn't be any business. You would sit and listen. As a superintendent, there would be very little talking unless I needed to be part of that presentation. But it would be the Mr. Tims and the Mrs. Shepherds and the classroom teachers and maybe the agriculture department, maybe the fine arts would bring in the group to talk about our enrichment programs. Whatever it might be, we hear from the kids and the teachers. I love those meetings. And I hate to give those up, and I would hope that it might be something that we could do here. And I got a sense in talking to all of you that you thought that was a pretty good idea. I just wanted to bring it up at the meeting tonight and see if there's any further questions, comments, or tell me to put the brakes on it, whichever. What are your thoughts?
I think it's a wonderful idea.
The challenge, the meetings we can do, we have good people here. I've met them all just about so far, and I think that the special board meetings will be the easy part. The hard part is streamlining the regular meetings. So we'll try to make an effort at that. I'll probably have the reports from Lisa and Jake and Angela be written. If there's something like tonight, we figured Jake would want to come and talk about the discipline policy. Otherwise, they might not even be here. Nothing makes the meeting shorter than having fewer people at it. But that's kind of my thinking right now. And to Bonnie's point earlier, I do want to make it something that we review. And so there's 3 trimesters in the school year. We will try to have 3 special board meetings this year, probably on Wednesday nights. And then at the end of the year, we will review that process and see if we like it or not. So over the summer months, we'll just, at one of our meetings, probably the July meeting, that's what I have in my notes right now. It'll just be part of the board meeting is what do you think? Do we want to go to year 2 or not? So that's kind of the plan for that. So thank you for your input on that. That doesn't take board action or anything, just we'll kind of proceed in that manner. District finance and state finance, really, not just our district, but my conversations with you, school finance came up a number of times. I don't pretend to be an expert on Minnesota finance at this time. It's too darn hard to be an expert on it this quick. Good people that I'm working with Laura and Tony, they've taught me a lot. But I have to learn some during the course of this year. And so what a better time, perfect time for a board to kind of learn along with me. But one thing I do not want to do, and I see this happen too often, is you have information overload that gets thrown at you as board members. You know, in the Truth and Taxation meeting, which is in December, you have a budget meeting, and you get a lot thrown at you on one night. You may go to a board learning session. They're tremendous, but boy, they put so much into those. You leave after a couple hours, you're driving home in the car trying to figure out what all you just heard. And so my focus and what I wish for our board and our school district is that our board would understand some terminology. They would understand maybe 4 to 5 key indicators, and I call them financial health numbers of the district. Things like enrollment, unassigned balance at the end of the year, and then trends. I really think it's important that as a school board member, you know what our trend has been over the last 5 years and what we project it to be for the next 1 or 2. And by simplifying it, I think you actually end up knowing a lot more. And so what our goal will be this year is to go over that initially, repeat it, and have me bring it up, and Tony and Laura, you know, as the year goes on, try to bring it up a number of times, because once you start hearing it repetitively, it tends to sink in a little bit more too. So the first thing I need to do is decide if we can teach ourselves. Bonnie had suggested maybe talking to the School Board Association and see if they can have somebody come out, which I love that idea as long as they don't overdo it. You know, if they kind of keep it to the what we're looking for, and that is keep it simple and the main indicators of health financially. Is everybody comfortable with that, or do you have any comments or thoughts on that?
Well, I've heard you talk about it. I would probably withdraw my idea to have MSBA come. I think most of us sat through, you know, we went to the board training and I sat through the financial session and it was, you know, I learned a lot of new things while I was sitting there, but you're right, driving home I thought, I still don't really understand the basics of what we're doing. So I'm not sure they would have it as simple as what you're saying here, so
Bonnie, I agree with that. I sat through, I was in Iowa a long time, and I'm going to eventually stop comparing Minnesota to Iowa, I promise. But Iowa had a whole different finance system, and it wasn't better. In many ways, it was far worse. Some ways it was better. But there was a board that I was with for a long time, and we'd go to these meetings, and I was always frustrated because for 60 minutes of sitting and getting, there was like 5 minutes of, I thought, really good information for that board member. And it's almost like they wanted to put on too big of a show of all that there is to know. Well, at some point it gets to be just overload. And so I'll do my best to try to sort through that and give what, if I was a board member representing Rushford-Peterson Schools, what do I need to know that I'm doing my job for the citizens? That's what I'm looking at to try to present to you. And then if that's not enough, you can tell me and we'll go deeper. But if you get the basics down and really understand that over the course of a year and a half, you can't learn it in one setting, then maybe you'll go deeper in the years down the road, I guess. But for now, we'll shoot for this. Tony knows about this. She's on board. She may be our teacher some nights. But I think it's a great idea, so thank you for your input on that. I really appreciate it. Open enrollment transportation, this is not a policy change. As you well know, within our district, we don't pick up every student at their house in town here. But we go out of our school district and we do. That doesn't make any sense to me. And so in talking with our bus service, it's becoming a real problem that we are trying to go all over a city that's outside of our school district and pick up at houses, and people move and it gets a little further and starts taking longer. Kids are riding the bus for a real long time. So we're going to do the same thing out of town that we do in town, out of district as we do in district, is we're going to have bus stops. And so the initial contacts that our bus service has made to those families, they're okay with it. They're used to it. And so those families are going to be responsible to get their students to those assigned, and they're safe too. They're safe locations where they can drop off their kids. I don't think that's asking too much, and then we transport them the next 20, 30 minutes to get them to a great school. So that's not asking too much of our families. Just so you're aware of it, if you hear something, Honestly, I think if you hear anything, it might be from our local people saying, thanks, you know, we do that in town, that should probably be out of town. If you hear something negative, something that I can learn from and pass on to our transportation director, our company, don't hesitate to give me a call. Okay? Time for an upgrade. As for you, Joyce says she uses her own computer. The ones you've had in front of you has been about 2 years, 2 or 3. We'd like to get you new ones. These would not get thrown in the trash bin. We recycle them to the kids, use around the district, but we'd like to get you new ones. You really would have your choice if you want to, similar to what you have. Well, what do the kids have? Chromebooks?
Yeah, they have to use actually the same.
Same ones. Or if you'd like to have HP laptops. I don't know the difference. That's just how it was described to me. I've only seen Chromebooks that look a lot different than those. Do you guys have a preference?
Well, you seem to be all right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know, so I don't want.
You use your own? So 5 would be enough then. That's what I'm hearing. Okay. And then if yours dies, let us know and we'll get you one.
Sure.
They do that every now and then. If you try restarting it and then it won't start again, then it's time. The speed zone study with the city, I'm still trying to get up to speed on that. It sounds like there's been a lot of work on that, and it's like anything else, it seems like it takes forever right at the end. But one of the things that came from the state, you can read all this, was they were talking about requiring that we have crossing guards. And I know the schools had that in the past, but you know, that really surprises me because sometimes having a crossing guard adds to your liability. Because what if they make a mistake and put somebody in harm's way? And so that's something I'm really going to want to hear more information from. Maybe as a board you think that's not needed on the school district's part, but I want to make sure that by providing a crossing guard, we're not actually opening ourselves up to more liabilities. We definitely want our kids to be safe, and so if that's something we have to do, sure, we'll consider it, but it's hard to get volunteers. What if they don't show up on time? Do you suddenly become more liable? They send somebody out there if they're not paying attention. It's not just as simple as it sounds sometimes. And so I'm going to want to hear a lot more about that. And the city has been great to talk with. Kathy down there has been really good at keeping us informed. I will keep you informed as a school board. This is what I know that's in that paragraph as of today with the speed zone and changing it and possibility of lights and who's going to pay for the lights. And it says one thing, but then they're hearing it might be not be 100% paid for and it's expensive. So I can't tell you definitively at this point what is exactly going to happen, but it's still in the works. Okay? That's all I have.
For me, we just wrapped up last week with youth soccer, so our total registrations for the summer was 858. So that was a really good turnout for our summer programs. We didn't have to cancel a lot for weather, so that was even better. Kids Club, 37 per day, which was up a couple from last year, so that was fun to see. And then this week, we are doing a couple field trips due to the FBI training that's going on in our building. So the kids will be out of the building tomorrow and Thursday when they're doing some other training. And visiting Houston Nature Center, the Owl Center, they've been really great to work with. And then we're going to go to Lanesboro Park, and they've also had a couple other field trips to Spring Grove and the Crescent Pool. Preschool, we're sitting at 69 registrations so far, so that's still, I'm still receiving phone calls and a lot of questions about that from our parents. And ECFD, I've been working really hard with Heather Gregg, and we're setting the dates for the whole year and sending this out next week, or this week, for ECFD sessions for the whole year. We're going to talk to our parents to save the dates. We have our special events so they can get them on their calendars. We're going to hopefully have a table at open house to really promote our Birth to 5 program. I wrote a grant for Smith, our Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation. We received 175 books that we can hand out, along with Help Me Grow bags that we can hand out at an open house. So really kind of capturing our young families and getting them into our building. So that's a big deal for us this year. Our fall programs, our youth rec programs we set, that was in our summer or back to school newsletter. And all those are listed in here, so you could take a look at that. And then Lyra's coming back, which is very exciting. I received a really nice thank you last year, even though our attendance was small last year, they were very impacted by that. So I'm really happy to have Lyra come back for our community members around here, so that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Tim?
Start there, just some more information on concurrent enrollment and college credit updates for you guys. We're going to talk a little bit about it earlier in the meeting, the kind of the ones we didn't talk about, that prototype engineering and auto technician, kind of a unique program. Our students go one night a week to their campus to get the credits for that, so then in the end they can get either a prototype engineering certificate or an auto technician certificate. So they're still our students and they do that one night a week. And then the CNA certificate we talked about in the past. Kind of looking at that chart a little ways down further, that I had Minnesota State Southeast kind of put that together for us. That bottom line is the amount of money our students would have had to pay if they took those classes at Minnesota State Southeast. So that's not the amount of money that our district has spent each year on college classes. That's just kind of that heads up of if these students would have taken them through regular means, traditional means, that's the amount of money that they would have had to pay across the way. So kind of a cool thing that we're able to do and save our students that amount of money and get them some credits along the way.
Kind of a cool thing. What about the parents when they look at that? Do you think they'd say kind of? It's amazing, isn't it, when you look at the total number of dollars the kids are saving? And what I don't believe is included in that, Mr. Tim, you help me out if I'm wrong, is room and board?
Correct, and books.
And
I think I made a note of it at the bottom. but-
Okay, and then interest.
Yeah,
That's a really hard one for young families to understand, is that the cost of that education, I get that there's tuition, but if you get a loan, that might be 15-year payoff. So I don't know what that number should actually say there, but that's something that as a school district and as a school board member, I think you guys should be really proud of. That's impressive.
and then at the start of the other one, just some data that goes with some of our strategic plan stuff, but just from last year. For our 7th through 12th grade students, we had almost 73% of our 7th through 12th grades participated in a Minnesota State High School League approved activity. So on top of athletics, that's speech or in one act play as well. And then looking at our 7th through 12th graders, we had almost 55% of them were either in band or choir last year as well. So on top of, we've got a lot of our kids doing more than just showing up every day. So, and I can answer any questions you guys have on concurrent enrollment stuff or activities.
Kids do better in school when they're involved in activities?
Much better.
Absolutely. That's a pretty high number.
Yeah, it's real good. It was cool to see.
Anything else to add? Item number 8, our next meeting is on September 16th at 5:30 p.m. For a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
And we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Pretty hard to make that one.
Pretty good one. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You were there.
Yeah.